Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're diving headfirst into the world of voice acting in the age of AI.
It's a wild world out there.
It really is. And to guide us through this ever-changing landscape, we're taking a deep dive into Alex Teixeira's book, Embracing the Future: How Voice Actors Can Thrive in the Age of AI.
It's a must-read for anyone in the industry.
Yeah,
Teixeira really gets it.
totally. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. So right off the bat, we're confronted with this reality. AI-generated voices are everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. Commercials, e-learning, you name it.
It's incredible. Like that global beverage ad campaign a while back. Remember how they had different accents for each region? Teixeira says AI cut their production time by a whopping 70%.
It's mind-blowing how efficient it can be.
No kidding. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back for a second. For those who might still be wrapping their heads around it all, how about we break down exactly what we mean by AI voice technology?
Got it. Well, at its core, AI voice technology is all about teaching computers to sound human.
Okay, so like those old school text-to-speech systems.
Yeah, but light years ahead of that, those were so robotic and monotone.
Yeah,
AI has evolved drastically. We're talking about complex neural networks now.
neural networks, huh?
Yeah, they're basically sophisticated computer programs designed to mimic the way the human brain works. And they're trained on massive data sets of real voices.
So they're learning, essentially, learning to sound like us.
Exactly. Learning to replicate all the subtle nuances that make human speech so complex. And this is where we get into things like text-to-speech or TTS, and even voice cloning.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that a bit. TTS is basically taking written words and turning them into spoken words, right?
Right. And voice cloning takes that a step further. It's like creating a digital replica of a specific person's voice. A vocal fingerprint, you could say.
So they can capture, like, everything, the tone, the pitch, even the breathing.
That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
AI can analyze all of those subtle variations in a person's voice and recreate them with incredible accuracy.
Okay, so that's both amazing and a little unnerving.
It's definitely both. And it's something that voice actors are having to grapple with.
Because, let's be real, Teixeira doesn't sugarcoat it. He says some traditional voice acting gigs are probably going to decrease.
He's right. There are certain areas where AI can just churn out work faster and cheaper.
Like those straightforward narrations, maybe some basic explainer videos.
Exactly. And maybe some lower budget projects where they're looking for the most cost-effective option.
So what's a voice actor to do? Should we all be hiding under our desks?
No need to panic. Teixeira's point is that this isn't about AI versus humans. It's about how we adapt and evolve alongside this new technology.
So how do we do that? How do we work with AI instead of fearing it?
That's the million-dollar question. And luckily, Teixeira offers some insightful answers.
Lay it on us. What are some of the opportunities that this shift presents?
Well, for starters, you could actually be a part of AI's development. Voice actors can contribute their voices to training data.
So instead of fearing that AI will replace us, we can help shape how it sounds, how it expresses itself.
Exactly. You could be a part of making AI voices sound more authentic, more human.
It's like being a vocal coach for a machine.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then there's the growing need for quality control specialists. Real humans who can fine-tune those AI voices, make sure they sound natural and believable.
So while AI might be great at those more straightforward scripts, what about emotionally charged content, like an audiobook where the character is going through some heavy stuff?
That's the thing. AI can try to mimic emotional tones, but it can't truly replicate the depth of human experience. You need a human voice to convey that raw emotion, that genuine empathy.
AI can hit the notes, but it's a human who truly understands the story, the character's journey, and brings that emotional depth to the performance.
It's about recognizing AI's limitations. And that leads us to the importance of niche specialization in this new landscape.
Oh, so I'm a voice actor, I'm listening, and I'm thinking, okay, so how do I stand out in a world where AI is becoming more and more prevalent?
That's where carving out your niche becomes crucial.
So what does that look like in practice?
It's about figuring out what makes you unique as a voice actor and really owning that. Are you amazing at those warm, comforting narrations? Maybe you've got a knack for quirky character voices.
Or you're the go-to for those high-energy commercials.
Yeah, exactly. Find that sweet spot, that thing that makes you stand out, and make it your own. AI can try to replicate those things, but it can't replicate you.
It's like, yeah, AI can try to sound like James Earl Jones, but it'll never truly be James Earl Jones.
Exactly. Your individuality is your superpower, especially in a world where more and more voices are synthetic. And it goes beyond just the voice itself. It's about who you are as a person, your experiences, your perspective. That all comes through in your work.
So we talked about emotionally charged content, but what are some other niche markets where voice actors can really thrive, even with AI on the rise?
Well, one area that's exploding right now is indie video games and animation. These creators, they're often looking for fresh, unique voices to bring their characters to life.
And they might be more open to taking a chance on a voice that's a little different, a little less conventional.
Absolutely. And while they might not have huge budgets, they can offer a different kind of creative freedom. You might have more input into the character development, more say in how the lines are delivered.
So it's about finding those projects where you can really shine, where your unique talents are not just welcomed, but celebrated. But what about those of us who love the traditional voiceover world? Is there still room to grow there, even with AI in the mix?
Absolutely. In fact, I'd say that AI is actually creating a greater need for seasoned voice actors to step into mentoring roles, to
Mm.
guide the next generation of voice talent.
Right, because the traditional voice acting world has always been very apprenticeship-based, right?
Exactly. And as the industry changes, that need for guidance is more important than ever. It's like navigating a whole new landscape. You need a map and a compass.
And who better to be that guide than someone who's already been there, done that, and knows the ropes?
Exactly. So we're talking about seasoned voice actors, leading workshops, teaching online courses, maybe even becoming instructors at universities or drama schools, sharing their expertise on everything from vocal technique to, yes, even navigating the world of AI, making sure that the human element of this craft doesn't get lost in all the tech.
So we're not just voices, we're also teachers, we're guides, we're helping to shape the future of the industry.
Exactly. And that teaching, it can take many forms. Teixeira talks about creating online courses on platforms like Udemy or Skillshare. You could teach people how to set up a home recording studio, how to use all the latest AI-powered audio editing software.
You could create tutorial videos on YouTube, sharing your warm-up techniques, your audition tips.
Exactly. Or you could start a podcast.
Ooh, meta.
Right. Interviewing other voice actors,
Yeah,
discussing the latest trends in AI and voiceover. The possibilities really are endless.
it's true. And let's be real. In a field that's getting more and more competitive, diversifying your income streams is never a bad idea.
100%. And beyond the financial aspect, there's something incredibly rewarding about passing on your knowledge, about helping others find their voice.
Speaking of finding your voice, Teixeira encourages voice actors to think even bigger, to become innovators and entrepreneurs themselves.
I love that part of the book.
Yeah.
He really challenges voice actors to step outside their comfort zones and take ownership of their careers.
But how does AI play into starting your own business?
Well, imagine a world where voice actors aren't just the performers, they're the creators, the ones building the platforms and the technologies that are shaping the future of the industry. Instead of just lending your voice to someone else's project, you're building your own.
Okay, I'm liking where this is going. Give me some concrete examples. What kind of businesses are we talking about?
Well, one area that's ripe for innovation is AI-powered voice content creation services.
So instead of just being a voice for hire, you're creating a whole platform that makes voiceover production faster, more efficient.
Exactly. Imagine a client could upload a script, choose from a range of voice styles, and have a high-quality voiceover generated in minutes.
But wouldn't that put voice actors out of work?
Not necessarily. Remember, AI is a tool. It can handle those more basic, repetitive tasks, freeing up human voice actors to focus on the projects that really require that human touch, the nuance, the creativity.
So it's about finding that balance. Human talent working in harmony with technological efficiency.
Exactly. This kind of service could be a game changer for businesses that need quick turnaround times on things like e-learning courses or explainer videos, streamlining the process without sacrificing quality.
That makes a lot of sense. What other entrepreneurial avenues does Teixeira explore?
He talks about voice branding consultancy, which is fascinating.
Voice branding consultancy. Now that's a new one on me. Break that down for us. What is that?
Okay, so you know how brands have visual identities.
Sure, their logos, their colors, their fonts. It's about creating a consistent look and feel across all of their materials.
Right. Well, voice branding is doing the same thing, but with sound.
So creating a unique sonic identity for a brand. Ooh, I like it.
And this is becoming huge as we interact more and more with devices through voice. Think smart speakers, virtual assistants. Brands want to make sure that when you're interacting with them through voice, it feels consistent with their overall brand identity.
So a voice branding consultant would help companies develop that sonic identity.
That's it. They'd work with the brand to define their target audience, their brand values, their tone of voice, and then they'd help them find the perfect voice talent or even create a custom AI voice that really embodies those attributes.
So it's like being a brand strategist, but for sound. And who better to do that than a voice actor with all of your expertise in vocal delivery and performance?
Exactly. It's a really exciting field with a lot of room for growth. It's about using your knowledge of sound and voice to help brands create these really memorable and engaging experiences.
I love that. See, the possibilities really are endless.
They are. And they don't stop there. Teixeira also talks about voice actors developing their own voice apps and tools.
Okay, now we're talking next level. What kind of apps are we envisioning here?
Think of things like a voice training app that uses AI to give you personalized feedback on your technique.
Like having a vocal coach in your pocket.
Exactly. Or an interactive audio drama, or a video game that uses AI to create this really immersive and responsive experience for the player.
Or what about an accessibility tool that helps people with visual impairments navigate the digital world using voice commands?
Yes, the possibilities really are limitless, and you can tailor it to your specific area of interest.
So if you've always been passionate about a certain cause or you see a gap in the market, you can create something that addresses that need.
And potentially create a successful business along the way.
Right. You could be sitting on the next big app idea.
Exactly. And the great thing is, even if you don't know anything about coding or app development, you can always hire someone, partner with a tech startup.
Or teach yourself. There are so many resources available these days.
Absolutely. The key is to be open to those new possibilities.
So we've talked about going solo, but what about joining forces with existing tech companies? Teixeira talks about that too, right?
He does. And it's huge because tech startups, they're often at the forefront of innovation, but they don't always have the deep understanding of the voice acting world that you do.
So it's a perfect opportunity for collaboration.
Right. It's a win-win. They get your expertise and you get to be a part of groundbreaking projects.
What would that look like in reality?
Well, you could be an advisor, a consultant, helping them to develop their voice technology or create more natural-sounding AI voices. You could even be a co-founder, a partner.
Or you could just be a content creator. You could lend your voice to their products, help them develop these really engaging voice-driven experiences.
Exactly. So it really depends on how involved you want to be.
It sounds like an incredible way to learn about new technologies, expand your network.
And maybe even get in on the ground floor of the next big thing.
I know, I'm feeling so inspired right now. This conversation has really shifted my whole perspective on AI. It's not this big, scary monster that's coming to steal our jobs.
It's a tool, it's a collaborator, and maybe even a student.
Okay, I love that. So we've covered a lot of exciting opportunities, but let's be real, this is still a big shift for a lot of voice actors out there. As we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are some key takeaways for our listeners who might be feeling a little overwhelmed by all this talk about AI in the future?
It is a lot to process, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the main takeaway here is that AI isn't the enemy. It's not about to make voice actors obsolete. It's really about seeing it as a tool that can actually enhance what we do and open up new creative avenues that we might not have even imagined before.
So less robots are taking over and more, let's figure out how to use these new tools to our advantage.
Exactly. And that leads us to adaptability, right?
Yeah.
The voice acting industry has always been about evolving. The voice actors who thrive are the ones who are willing to learn new skills, explore new roles, try new things.
It's like anything else. You got to stay curious, stay open to change, and never stop learning, especially in a field as dynamic as this one.
100%. And through all of that change, remember, your voice is what makes you irreplaceable.
It's that human element that AI just can't replicate.
Exactly. So nurture it, keep refining your craft, and find those opportunities to really use your voice to create something meaningful.
Something that speaks to you, that showcases your unique talents and perspective, because there will never be another you, which is a pretty powerful thing when you think about it.
It really is.
You know, something that I've been thinking about with all this talk about AI and voice cloning is how do we protect our voices legally speaking?
It's a question more and more voice actors are asking these days, and it's a big one.
Because it feels like AI adds a whole other layer of complexity to things.
It does. Teixeira actually dedicates a whole chapter in his book to intellectual property rights in the age of AI. It's a dense one, but super important.
Okay, so for those of us who don't speak legalese, what are the key things voice actors need to know about protecting their intellectual property when it comes to AI?
Well, the first thing to understand is that your voice performances are considered intellectual property, just like a song or a book. They're protected by law. And there are different types of intellectual property rights that apply to voice work. For example, copyright protects your original recordings.
So if I record a voiceover for a client, I own the copyright to that recording.
Not automatically, no.
Hmm.
If you've signed a work-for-hire agreement, which is common in voice acting, the client typically owns the rights to those recordings.
Okay, so those contracts I'm signing, maybe not something to just skim over, huh?
Exactly. You really want to make sure those contracts clearly outline how your recordings can be used, what mediums they can be used in, for how long, in what territories, things like that.
And whether or not I'm entitled to any royalties if they use my voice down the line.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and protecting yourself, especially as AI becomes more prevalent in the industry.
Right. So how does AI change things? What do I need to be extra cautious about?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is unauthorized use of voice recordings. With AI, it's relatively easy to collect voice data from the internet and use it to train a voice cloning model.
So someone could basically steal my voice and use it for their own purposes without my permission.
It's a scary thought, and it's something that voice actors are rightfully concerned about.
So what can we do to protect ourselves?
Well, first and foremost, be really mindful about what you put out there in the public domain. Maybe think twice about uploading those raw recordings to your website without the proper protections in place. Make sure that any contracts you sign clearly define how your voice data can be used, especially in relation to AI. And if you do ever find that your voice has been used without your consent, talk to a lawyer.
Knowledge is power. It's like they always say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So be proactive, be informed, and don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
100%.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. We've gone from the nitty-gritty of AI voice technology to the ins and outs of contracts and intellectual property rights.
It's a lot to cover, but hopefully our listeners are walking away feeling informed and empowered.
That's the goal. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of voice acting in the age of AI, what would you say is the most important thing for our listeners to remember as they navigate this exciting but always evolving industry?
Don't be afraid of AI.
Yeah.
Embrace the possibilities. Learn about it. Explore how it can enhance your work. And never stop honing your craft. Your voice, your talent, your unique perspective, that's what makes you irreplaceable. The future of voice acting is collaborative, it's innovative, and it's bursting with potential.
Beautifully said. That is a wrap on another deep dive. A huge thank you to our expert for joining us today and for sharing such incredible insights.
It was my pleasure. Always happy to talk shop.
And to all of you listening out there, thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of AI and voice acting. We'll keep exploring these fascinating topics, but until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep using those amazing voices of yours.